Hi everybody, this is Casey with Traditions Leathercraft coming to you from Oklahoma City. We're going to start doing some tips on Wednesday. So I thought that the most important tip I could share with you is how to properly case your live oak tooling leather before you tool. So we are going to use one of the templates that we sell called the Casey Front Pocket Wallet. This is a neat little wallet that I've been carrying for years. It's small, compact, it's got a spot on the side for money. You can use behind that for storing receipts, hidden pocket right here, and then lots of space for your credit cards. So it's a great little project, and I'm using some 3 to 4 ounce live oak tooling leather. And for best results, you're going to want to use distilled water. Not everybody does this, but it's a great thing to do. That way you make sure you don't have any contaminants in your water. I'm using one of our TLC sponges. This is a dry piece of live oak. First thing I'm going to do is wet it down lightly on the front side. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to lightly moisten the back side. And remember, any veg tan tooling leather is going to tool better when the moisture is in the middle of the leather. You don't want it soaking wet on top. You don't want it soaking wet on bottom. You just want it damp enough that that moisture is going to soak down into the middle of the leather. So as soon as this has all soaked in and there's no water puddled up on it, I like to turn it upside down and leave it on my granite slab for about 15 minutes. Then I'll come back and I'll tape the back. And in the next video, we'll show you how to transfer one of our Maker's Aid templates. All right, guys, now that the back's dry, I've taken some blue painter's tape and taped it. Now the live oak is ready for one more final wetting on the front. This time you want to wet it nice and evenly. And while I'm getting my Maker's Aid template ready, anytime I have to walk away or do anything, I just turn it upside down so that moisture doesn't evaporate out of the leather. It keeps evaporating to the center. I'm going to choose this corner design to put on the front pocket wallet. But before I do that, I've set my wing dividers up at approximately 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to go around. This will give me plenty of room for a stitch line. And I'll know where to put my tooling. Wing dividers are so handy for lots of different things. Marking your lines before you get started is definitely a benefit. So now with the Maker's Aid templates, this particular one has all of these floral patterns on it. These are plastic templates that have raised lines on them. All you have to do is choose the design that you want, place it down on your leather, get it lined up with my lines that I put down there, and then with the spoon end of a modeling spoon, rub over it. With my left hand, I'm just keeping it from moving. Just going to rub it briskly. This is on the smooth side, and I like to take a peek before I pick it all the way up, make sure I didn't miss any lines. And then once you have it transferred, this will transfer your tooling pattern to your leather. So on the next step, I'll show you carving it and stamping it and getting it all to the finished stage so we can color it. All right, guys, now I've got my pattern transferred. One of the things I like to do is take a little piece of painter's tape and make a loop right here. This just kind of keeps my piece from moving around when I don't want it to. So now I'm going to take my swivel knife with my 1/4 inch ceramic blade. I'm going to strop it. Good rule of thumb, we always teach this in our classes, is to stop and strop every time you pick up your swivel knife. You're not going to over polish this swivel knife blade. You just want to keep it clean and smooth, because as you're carving, your swivel knife blade is getting some of the fats from the leather and the proteins on the blade. If you'll stop and strop, you'll get much cleaner cuts. So now I'm just going to start by cutting the outside pieces of this pattern. And the lines that are going to be on top are going to be the most prevalent, so that's the ones I'll do first. Now remember to always pull your swivel knife blade towards you. Turn your piece around when you need to. If you have to stop and reposition it, that's okay. Make sure that you're pressing hard enough to go approximately halfway through whatever thickness of leather you're carving. This happens to be 3 to 4 ounce. I'm going to go ahead and just fade away real quick, and I'll Okay, got all those lines carved. You can see that I've got the swivel knife cuts in there for the design. The next step is to take your camouflage, pear shaders, veiners, bevelers, and do all these steps. So I'm gonna, in the middle of this scroll, I'm gonna put a little end to it right there with my small camo. And now I'm gonna take my pear shader and start pear shading these leaves. And we'll come back to this here in just a minute, and I'll show you how it looks when you get it all done. As you can see, you're getting a real nice burnish with this, the way the live oak has been moistened properly. So I'll see you in just a second. All right, just finished up with the pear shading now. Now I'm going to switch over to my beveler. You can see the pear shader added some texture to it. So now it's time to bevel all these lines. I'm going to use two different size bevelers. I've got one that's a little bigger and then a medium size. For most of it, I find this medium size is going to work. And remember, we cut our outside lines first, the parts that are going to be up on top of everything. And it's important to bevel those in that order. So I'm going to start with the most prevalent thing in this, and that's this leaf here on top. I'm going to go around and bevel, and just like when you're using your swivel knife and you come to a line that ends, you never want to stop abruptly. You want to let that line just kind of fade out. So I'm going to bevel this next line, the outside of this leaf here. And if you're not used to walking your tools, it's a good idea to get used to walking your bevelers inside these swivel knife cuts. Let that fade away. I've got the outside edge of this flower. Now I can bevel the top of it. Set it up where it's standing up from the background. So I'll continue using my beveler on the rest of this, and we'll come back and show you how that looks when we finish. All right, just finished up with the beveling. Now I'm going to grab my backgrounder, and I'm going to fill in these areas around the background that aren't part of the flower. I'll be using the E294 and the E294-4, which is a small backgrounder. And you want to do your backgrounding when your leather's almost getting to the driest point that you'd ever want a tool on it. Backgrounding that's done when the leather is too wet just turns out real mushy looking. So I'm going to get my backgrounder in here and start matting down this background. And as soon as we get it finished, I'll come back and show you what it looks like, and then I'll wet it and we'll do some decorative cuts. All right, just finished up the background. Now you can see I've matted the background down on the parts that are not the floral design. I let it fade away out here where it spills out into a big open area. And now the next step would be to lightly moisten your leather again, getting ready to do our decorative cuts, which is the final stage to this particular pattern. While that's soaking in, I'm going to once again strop my swivel knife. And remember, it's important to strop every time you pick up your swivel knife, just to clean that blade off. Even if you're using a ceramic blade that you never have to put on a stone, it's still a good idea to strop that blade. And once that moisture is soaked in, now we can come in here and start adding our decorative cuts. Decorative cuts is pretty much a matter of personal preference on how many or few you do. Just use caution. I'd say don't overdo it. Experiment on different patterns to see how much decorative cuts you like. And you can always look at the pictures. They always have examples on the pictures of the Maker's Aid templates showing you an idea where to put your decorative cuts. Do a few more in here. I like to do a couple coming off of this scroll. And there we go. Now that the decorative cuts are in here, my next step is going to be to bevel my border. So we'll come back and show you what that looks like once that's finished. All right, now that we've got the border all beveled, I'm going to go ahead and let my piece dry out all the way. Then I'll come back and we'll start adding some color to our front pocket wallet.